we have to accept what the intelligentsia has afforded us, because we have no right to question. That right has been removed from us because the source of their information was inconsistent with the progression of life.
Worst motherfucker.
The man who would later be known as Dr. Sebi was born Alfredo Darrington Bowman on or around November 26, 1933, in the village of Ilanga, Honduras. In 1953, Bowman moved to New Orleans, Louisiana. During his early years in the United States, he worked as a steam engineer aboard merchant fishing boats. By his early 30s, Bowman was suffering from multiple physical ailments. Seeking alternative remedies, Bowman traveled to Mexico, where he met an herbal healer named Alfredo Cortez. Cortez introduced him to traditional natural healing methods and reportedly cured him through the use of herbal medicine and dietary adjustments.
So let us get into it now. Let us get into the journey as to how this came about, because the boy didn't go to school. And the boy didn't read any history books or any books on philosophy. The only books that I embraced were the books on herbs. And it was a Mexican that put me on the trail. I went to the black herbalists in New York. They didn't heal me. I went to the Chinese herbalists in San Francisco and in LA. They didn't heal me. My diabetes, my impotence, my blindness, my obesity was persisting. And I went to a Mexican. The one that we black people have a tendency to talk about sometimes. Well, because of him, I'm standing in front of you here. I'm Mexican. He said, "You're dying." I said, "I know that because I was going to the bathroom and I didn't reach there. I got up off the floor." He said, "And you're disobedient, just like these Mexicans that are my brothers and sisters. You're not eating the food of your mother and your father. So your penalty that you're not going to eat for 90 days. At the ending of 90 days, I didn't have any disease though. And here I am in front of you at 70. I don't have anything. Don't have any pain or glasses on my eyes. I have no problem with sex or my nerve." All right?
Upon his return to the United States, Dr. Sebi began formulating and distributing herbal products under the product name Dr. Sebi's Cell Food. He also traveled to various regions, delivering lectures to promote the therapeutic advantages of an alkaline, plant-based diet. His growing recognition and the success of his methods led to the establishment of the USHA Research Institute in La Ceiba, Honduras. The institute served as a center for individuals seeking alternative medical treatment for various chronic conditions.
Can we pull the video clipping up of Dr. Sebi in Honduras?
So we're going to go and take a little walk to show the thermal waters. These are the thermal waters. These waters come out of the ground at the temperature of 210 degrees Fahrenheit. Sometime above boiling point, sometime a little below, which, 212 is the boiling point. But this water has known to cure instantly. Here is a plant in front of us that is known in Central America by the Spanish-speaking Indians. They call them sauco. Sauco is a plant that in the berries we find that the mineral of iron is found. Iron phosphate is found in these berries, and these berries are responsible for us reversing a lot of diseases that sits in the blood. It contains iron phosphate.
This plant, the Salco, when it sends its roots into the ground, it converts that oxide mineral into a liquid digestible substance the process is known as iontrophoresis, or the conversion from a solid to a liquid. And here Mother Nature has converted iron, which is solid, into a berry for you.
I have handcuffs on me because over the years I have been healing people in New York and round about, and my mother said, when you've been telling people you cure AIDS and sickle cell and diabetes and the rest, and they look at you like you're stupid, so you're going to have to do the ultimate. And what's that? Put it in the newspapers, and then they're going to take you to jail. Put it in the newspapers, and I did. The Amsterdam News, the New York Post, and the Village Voice. AIDS has been cured by the Usher Research Institute. And we specialize in cure for like leukemia, sickle cell, and that. Look what they did to me.
Dr. Sebi was arrested in 1987 in New York City on charges of practicing medicine without a medical license. The arrest stemmed from his claims that he could cure numerous diseases, including AIDS, cancer, and diabetes, through herbal remedies and dietary changes rooted in his philosophy of natural healing. His bold claims drew the attention of regulatory authorities who questioned the validity of his methods and sought evidence to support his assertions. Dr. Sebi was accused of making unverified medical claims, false advertising, and operating outside the boundaries of established medical practice.
When the Attorney General saw that, he sent to tell me to remove the ad. Why do I have to remove the ad? He said, because I said so. I said, well, the ad stays in the paper. So I was arrested on February the 10th of 1987, having to prove that we cured these various diseases. But if the approach was used that everyone else has embarked on, do you think that AIDS or sickle cell would have been cured? No, because they are not doing it now with the entity that they represent. So why should I subject myself to such an entity or such philosophy? It would be of no avail, because then I will be giving you what everyone else has already given.
The prosecution against Dr. Sebi consisted of officials from the New York State Department of Health and other regulatory bodies responsible for overseeing medical practices and ensuring public safety, along with various doctors and medical professionals. The New York Attorney General Robert Abrahams led the office that prosecuted Dr. Sebi. Dr. Sebi has stated that the reasons for his arrest were validated and even expected, as the claims he was making went against institutional medical knowledge at the time.
Keep talking.
So my mother said, they're going to get you. I said, but Mom, why are they going to get me? Because you must remember that you live in a society that support a certain philosophy and a certain system. You being the color that you are, black, and then you're going against the grain, they're going to get you.
Do you think that I would undermine that position by telling the world, here is a black man named Dr. Sebi that have cured diabetes, sickle cell anemia, leukemia? Then what's going to happen to his laboratories? What's going to happen to his pharmaceutical laboratories? But why should we be concerned with the American Medical Association?
Anyway.
Why should we be concerned with that? I know I weren't.
We have to remember this, that whenever you make a statement that goes against the grain, you better be prepared. Mm-hmm. You better be prepared. The judge said that I had to bring one of every patient that I had cured, and there was one that said others. The other was a man that came from Italy. He was paralyzed. But I took I was supposed to take 9. I took 77.
I'm the only individual to have diagnostic sheets showing from 5 different laboratories around the world that they have been cured of AIDS. I don't say it. I got diagnostic sheets. And that's important. Who else have those diagnostic sheets? Thank you.
After months of legal battle against unsurmounting odds, Dr. Sebi was found not guilty in the New York Supreme Court, with all charges against him dropped. Dr. Sebi's legal victory in New York remains one of the most significant events in his life and legacy.
I think the story is important. I think it's a powerful narrative.
It is.
You know what I mean? And I think imagine this. Anybody in this room, if I could say, hey, somebody cured AIDS, y'all be like, yeah, right. And then I could show you an example of him going to trial and proving in a court to a jury that he cured AIDS. Y'all would be interested in that.
Absolutely.
And y'all would look into the way he did it, right? So I feel like more so than like championing his products or explaining his methodology, put some light on that case.
The story, Michael. Well, that's right, Harold. He's an immigrant from Honduras who never went to school, college, or medical school. Yet the man known as Dr. Sebi claims to have found a cure for several life-threatening diseases, including AIDS. Too good to be true? Well, you be the judge. The lump in Myrtle Rick's left breast is gone.
I haven't had any symptoms or problems or anything.
Sabrina Peterson's son no longer disabled by sickle cell anemia.
He has a lot of energy. I have to make him rest.
Disease is cured by this man. His name is Dr. Sebi, but he won't find a medical degree hanging from his wall. Instead, a certificate of healing.
We have complex things with science, but if we go back to God and use the herbs as God said, then you can see how simple it is.
Dr. Sebi believes what ails you can be cured with natural alkaline herbs and a vegetarian diet solely made up of what he calls electric foods, mushrooms, greens, and rye breads without starch.
Hippocrates established the principle of medical science by using herbs to cure diseases, then why the physician using the chemicals?
40 years ago, a doctor in Mexico cured Sebi of diabetes, asthma, and obesity with the very same herbs and diet he dispenses to all of his patients, whether they're suffering from lack of energy or full-blown AIDS.
That package is an intracellular chelation. I'm removing plaque from the system. I'm removing inflammation. That is the base for all disease.
And according to a medical affidavit provided by Dr. Sebi, it's working. It shows a patient diagnosed with HIV in November of 1993 was cured 2 months later. Thousands of patients worldwide swear by his methods and natural herbal medicines.
Dr. Sebi spoke with conviction against the global embrace of Western diets, warning that this shift was not merely a culinary change, but a threat to the health of all humanity.
Part of your philosophy, or I don't want to say philosophy, part of your outlook or your beliefs is that people are at their healthiest when they're eating foods that come from the region of their ethnic origin.
That's not happening.
Right, but that's what you believe.
No, I don't believe that either. What I believe is to eat food that came out of the product of life itself. I don't care whether you're Chinese, Eskimo, Arab, or what. If you eat something natural, you're going to be healed.
He believed these diets, laden with processed sugars, refined grains, hybridized plants, and animal products, were an affront to the natural harmony of the body. For populations whose ancestors thrived on whole, unprocessed, plant-based foods, he argued, the consequences were particularly profound. Dr. Sebi suggests that dietary practices must be tailored to the specific needs of individuals based on their region of origin and ethnic background.
So these compounds cured everyone, whether you're black, white, Chinese, or Eskimo, providing they are natural. But the substance that you're going to eat as a staple, yes, I agree with you. You are 100% right. It has to be something that is genetically consistent with you.
Okay.
His philosophy notes that the body is uniquely aligned with the natural foods available in the geographic regions where different races and cultures evolved. According to Sebi, the foods that were once native to a region and consumed by its indigenous people are most harmonious with their biological makeup. As such, Sebi recommended that dietary practices be tailored to an individual's racial and regional background, reflecting the distinct diets that have historically supported their health and vitality.
When God placed each group, whether Eskimo, Chinese, Europeans, Native Americans, and Africans, we were placed in different geographical locations with a food that is consistent with the cellular structure that we represent.
Dr. Sebi's theories on the healing power of natural, unprocessed, and nutrient-dense foods find resonance in the teachings of other scholars and researchers who have long championed the power of traditional, unprocessed foods in maintaining optimal health and longevity. The studies of Dr. Weston Price also emphasize the profound connection between traditional diets and optimal health, underscoring the vitality that arises from aligning human nutrition with nature's inherent design. In his seminal work, Nutrition and Physical Degeneration, Dr. Price chronicled his encounters with communities untouched by the forces of industrialization. Dr. Price found that traditional diets of locally available seasonal foods fostered not only optimal physical health, but also remarkable dental integrity.
By 1934, Dr. Price decided to study the various people who inhabit the many islands of the South Pacific. New Zealand was also included in his studies. Dr. and Mrs. Price lived with these people, collecting and studying data about their living conditions.
Here's a fine boy. See this one. Come over here. You see. How old are you? 40. Number of the teeth have decayed cavities in them. And that has happened because he's not eating enough fish or not getting enough milk. Say, you're a fine, big, strong fella. How old are you? Why, you look as though you were a giant. My. Where'd you come from? Copperhill. Well, that's the place. Did you eat lots of fish when you were a little boy? Yes. That's the stuff that makes good bodies. If everybody do that. The most universal disease in the world is the decay of the teeth. And unfortunately, we have not known the cause until we've gone to the primitive people to find how they prevent tooth decay. Our difficulty is that we are adding too much white flour and sugar and do not get enough of the foods that carry the minerals and vitamins. When the primitive people adopt the food of modern civilization, their teeth decay just as ours do.
Not surprisingly, he found that people who ate the foods of the area, shell and scale fish, plant roots, and tropical fruits, had developed a very high immunity to dental decay. Also, they had well-formed faces and good dental arches. In their primitive state, less than 1% of their teeth were attacked by tooth decay. But as though echoing a warning from nature herself, the message was clear. Those who ate foods outside their natural diets had a rise in tooth decay of over 29%.
These findings were a stark contrast to the refined sugars, flours, and processed oils that had begun to infiltrate Western societies with devastating consequences. Among communities exposed to Western diets, he observed an alarming rise in dental caries, malnutrition, and chronic illnesses. The call for a return to traditional ancestral dietary patterns can also be found in the principles of the paleo diet, which was popularized in the early 2000s and developed by nutritionist Lauren Cordain. Central to his theories is the assertion that human biology has not significantly changed in the last 10,000 years since the advent of agriculture. Cordain argues that the optimal human diet should resemble the food consumption patterns of hunter-gatherer societies, while avoiding the consumption of grains and processed foods. He claims that these foods contain anti-nutrients, which can impair nutrient absorption and contribute to chronic inflammation, digestive issues, and autoimmune diseases.
And the book was printed in 1913, I believe. As I thumbed through it, there wasn't a single recipe that used vegetable oils. There was a little, I think, olive oil in one or two, but other than that, they simply didn't use vegetable oils. So in the mere frame of 3 or 4 human generations or less, we now have seen this kind of incredible data. Now, what's wrong with it is that vegetable oils are loaded up with a fat called linoleic acid, and they have very low alpha linolenic acid, meaning that they're high in omega-6s and low in omega-3s. And we know omega-6 fatty acids tend to be pro-inflammatory and are associated with any disease that has an itis on it, such as hypertension, autoimmune, gout, obesity, cardiovascular disease, and whatever.
It should be noted that these types of nutritional theories remain contentious, with ongoing debate about the overall applicability and sustainability of such a restrictive diet model. Dr. Sebi developed a meticulously curated list of foods deemed suitable, specifically designed for individuals of the African haplotype. This list was rooted in ancient dietary traditions and the natural foods historically available within those regions. This list was subject to ongoing revisions, with foods being added or removed up until his death in 2016. But what were the underlying criteria for determining which foods were included? Moreover, how might individuals from other genetic backgrounds benefit from his dietary guidelines? To explore these questions, it becomes crucial to investigate the historical and natural origins of the foods we consume. By examining the history and natural properties of a given food, we can evaluate its alignment with the principles set forth in Dr. Sebi's ideology.
Strawberries. This is a case of when humans mess with food and it goes wrong. Strawberries used to be known as Fragaria vesca, and they're actually thought to be much nicer than the modern strawberries we enjoy today. However, they were far smaller than the strawberries we have today. So why did we make this fruit less tasty? Well, it comes down to cold hard cash. Farmers wanted to make larger fruit so they could sell them for more money. They also bred them to have better resistance to diseases, and their appearance also looks slightly nicer. However, all of these breeding factors decreased the taste and flavor of the strawberry. But who was the man who ruined strawberries? Well, it was actually an 18th century French spy named Amédée François Fraisier. He brought the Chilean version of the strawberry over to France, and these were crossed over with old strawberries, making the strawberries we have today.
Because they are artificial, they are unable to deliver the nutrition that one is looking for, because it is hybrid. You see, to understand nutrition, one has to use only those substances that are electrical. And the only substance on this planet that are electrical are the products that came with creation.
Central to Dr. Sebi's teachings was his emphasis on the distinction between natural plants, those that evolved organically through the Earth's natural cycles, and hybrid plants, those created through human intervention and cultivated hybridization. He taught that these natural plants, grown in harmony with their native environments, are inherently alkaline, helping to maintain the body's pH balance.
There are measures that you could use to know whether the substance is natural or unnatural.
In stark contrast, Sebi criticized hybrid foods, plants crossbred by humans to enhance traits like sweetness, size, or resilience. He argued that hybridization disturbs the natural genetic integrity of plants, leading to foods that are nutritionally inferior and chemically imbalanced.
Only the products of life could assist you. Only a product that was created by life could assimilate in you and render good. And how do we know what is created by life and what was created by a laboratory?
All oranges except one is a hybrid. Who do we have in the audience that's from the tropics or the Caribbean? Where are you from? Do you know the civil orange? That is what he should know about, but he don't know about that. But if he was living in Florida, he would know about it. Because Florida has everybody's backyard house civil orange on the tree. They have a tree of civil orange in the yard. So I walked in this yard and they had thousands of them on the lawn. I said, lady, don't you use this orange? She said, no, it's sour. I said, but that's the orange that God made. From that one orange, they made all other oranges. I would come by with my car and I would squeeze civil orange. Instead of using vinegar, use that. We even bake it in Central America, am I right? To give it for people that have colds. And it take it out. That's the only natural origin, but you don't find that in America.
A notable study on the hybridization of food is the Davis study, conducted in 2004 and published in the Journal of the American College of Nutrition. This study serves as a reminder of how modern agricultural practices have greatly reduced the nutritional content of our everyday foods. Donald R. Davis and his colleagues set out to investigate an unsettling trend, the decline in the nutrient content of garden crops, specifically over the latter half of the 20th century. By examining USDA data on 43 fruits and vegetables from 1950 to 1999, they uncovered a pattern that should give us pause. While the size and yield of these crops had improved, their nutritional value, measured in terms of protein, calcium, iron, and essential vitamins, had quietly diminished.
But just like any deal for eternal youth, there is a price to pay.
You can taste them.
Tasteless.
This was no accident, Davis observed, but rather the inevitable consequence of breeding crops for higher yields and faster growth. The push for efficiency, he argued, had come at the expense of the soil-to-plant connection, where essential nutrients are absorbed. In striving to feed more mouths, we had inadvertently stripped our food of the very qualities that sustain us. The study revealed reductions in several key nutrients across the crops analyzed. For instance, calcium levels fell by 16%, iron by 15%, and vitamin C by 20%. These declines, though seemingly modest, compound over time, especially when coupled with modern diets that already lean heavily on processed and nutrient-poor foods. Davis explained this phenomenon as the dilution effect. As plants are bred to grow faster and larger, they must distribute their available nutrients across more biomass. In essence, the same soil resources are stretched thinner, leaving the crops we harvest less nutritionally dense.
En Israël, justement, on a rencontré le professeur Rabinovitch.
Oui.
Vous le connaissez?
Absolument.
Vous savez très bien que c'est lui qui a inventé la tomate longue durée, donc c'est une tomate qui dure 3 semaines.
Oui.
Il nous a expliqué que le gène de longue durée bloque en partie la maturation du fruit et donc, du coup, le développement des nutriments.
Mais on est ambitieux. Il va falloir qu'on soit capable, les consommateurs nous demandent des tomates qui ont du goût et des caractéristiques de conservation qui sont également attendues par le consommateur et par le maraîcher et par l'ensemble de la chaîne de valeur.
When you talk about animals and plants, any plant that is grown in a farm, oh, that's a farm bred, that's a natural farm bred, an apple, a pear, a plum. But when you talk about sea grape, that's a wild fruit. When you talk about a dog, oh, a dog is a nice animal. You know, he brings all kind of disease in your house, but that's okay. He's a nice animal. A lion, that's a wild animal. Everything that God made is wild. We say there is one. And that the one is what? You already know, it's mucus. The brother just told me that he's suffering with a breathing problem. It's mucus that he has in his body.
Dr. Sebi advised that there is only one disease, and that is the overproduction of mucus. Wherever excessive mucus accumulates, function is disrupted.
Mucus is the cause of all disease. This was the question posed to me in court. That why were we making these claims and why were we so successful and what was going on? Is that disease was never identified to us. If it was identified, then the question would not be asked now, and then we all of us that are sick would be enjoying health. Well, disease is the accumulation of mucus, breaking down the mucous membrane, and that mucus covering groups of cells in your body. Like, for instance, we have the mucous membrane in the body to protect us from the onslaught of aerobic bacteria, as they are called. But this mucous membrane is for protection. But now we eat acid foods. And the acid food breaks down the mucous membrane and does cause it to flow with the blood, covering other groups of cells now. Groups of cells that belongs to organs, depriving them of oxygen. If the mucus goes to your nostrils, they call it sinusitis. If the mucus goes to your bronchial tubes, it's bronchitis. If the mucus goes to the lungs, it's pneumonia. So we have 3 different diseases caused by what? Mucus. So what about when the mucus goes to the prostate glands? It's prostatitis. What about when the mucus goes to the uterus of the woman? That's endometriosis or vaginal discharge or yeast infection. So we have this mucus situation now that is caused by an inadequate diet. Mucus is the underlying cause for all disease.
To Dr. Sebi, mucus is not merely a symptom of illness, but the very environment that fosters the growth of disease-causing agents. The buildup of mucus, according to Dr. Sebi, was a direct result of an acidic diet, asserting that an acidic state encourages mucus production, while an alkaline state reduces it. For example, mucus in the lungs may lead to respiratory issues like asthma or chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, while its presence in the joints could result in arthritis. To combat this, Dr. Sebi championed a radical yet simple solution: remove the cause. His methodology focused on an alkaline plant-based diet designed to cleanse the body of mucus and restore its natural pH balance.
The African biomineral balance has to be constructed around an organic or alkali structure. Why? Because it is alkalinity that delivers the energy.
The pH scale is the measure of how acidic or alkaline a solution is. It runs from pH 0 all the way to pH 14. A solution with a pH of 7 is neutral. All acids contain hydrogen ions. The pH of an acid is determined by the concentration of hydrogen ions present. The more hydrogen ions present, the lower the pH and the more acidic the substance. However, all alkalis contain hydroxide ions, OH-. The more the hydroxide ions present, the stronger the alkali and the higher the pH.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If a substance is 1 in acidity and you take it, you will die within minutes. If it's 2, you may live hours or months. But if it's 3, you will live a little bit longer, but you're going to die quick, surely.
The pH levels of food refer to the measure of its acidity or alkalinity on a scale ranging from 0 to 14, with lower values indicating higher acidity, higher values indicating greater alkalinity, and 7 being neutral. Dr. Sebi's dietary model suggests that the human body functions optimally when its pH levels are slightly alkaline, as high acidic pH levels create an environment that is conducive to disease and illness.
Let me take my time because there's a whole lot of information. I don't want to jog it up. Anything that has a pH of 7 plus is alkali. Anything that has less 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 is acid. Spinach. Acid.
But the lower you go on the pH scale, the more acid that substance will be. So now, where do you think garlic fit? 3.3. Very acid.
Dr. Sebi also cautioned against the dangers of a diet high in starch-based foods. As the human body is primarily carbon-based, The consumption of starches, which are typically acidic in nature, can prohibit the body's ability to function at its optimal level. When starches are broken down during digestion, they often produce acidic byproducts. These byproducts can lower the body's pH, making starch-based foods acid-forming in terms of their metabolic effects.
The American Medical Association is telling us about the things that are harmful to our health, and that there are so many diet-related diseases that has been cropping up over a period of time. So we allow you to eat substance on the market that would not harm you as much as others. One that the African American should not consider at any time is carrots, because it too contains a high level of starch. And because our genetic structure is so high in carbon, we are very sensitive people. So whatever there is that is inconsistent with us, it would have an adverse effect on us immediately.
Dr. Sebi advised of the possible dangers of an unbalanced, unnatural diet. Human behavior is profoundly influenced by an unbalanced diet, as inadequate intake of essential nutrients can disrupt hormonal balance, impair cognitive function, and heighten emotional reactivity, ultimately affecting mood, decision-making, and overall mental well-being. The consumption of foods that are not suited to one's biological structure can have a profound impact by placing excessive stress on the body's natural systems, leading to chronic inflammation, hormonal imbalances, and disruptions in gut health.
Now you see, when I take all this away from you, what you going to eat now? Ah, that is what they did to us. They took us away from Africa, but they didn't bring our food with us. So now we're eating, instead of diesel, we're eating gasoline. This is why when we sit, we can't really communicate, because we're not really balanced. Because I'm eating a food that is undermining my thinking pattern. Shut up, boy! Can't you see I tell you to shut up? This behavior comes from that. From right this over there. That is unnecessary.
He was using that same esteem and momentum as a catalyst to engage a demographic that's lost here in America. Engage a demographic that's being abused by the medical industries, that's being abused by low nutrition foods that's being sold often in our community, being abused by the stuff that they're giving us for school lunch. And in turn, it manifests in our behavior, and then it registers in the form of gang violence. And I know a lot of people won't make the associations between low nutrition and gang violence, but trust me, there's a direct correlation between bad food consumption and bad thinking.
Modern nutritional research correlates with Dr. Sebi's ideologies, as specific dietary patterns are shown to influence biochemical markers, such as neurotransmitter precursors, lipid profiles, and micronutrient levels, all of which play a critical role in regulating neural pathways, stress responses, and overall mental and physical health. These findings highlight the complex interplay and direct correlation between nutrition and biological function.
Among us, stress so much that we blow our own brains out and offend others in many different ways and levels. I am manic, but I contain it with my suit, my tie, and my cup of coffee, not to mention my watch and my Mercedes. But one day, very soon, the doctors would say, "Hey man, you got something on you, in you, about you." And what is that, doc? It is cancer. Cancer? Well, my ancestors didn't have cancer. It was unknown. Why do I have cancer?
The American Medical Association is telling us about the things that are harmful to our health, and that there are so many diet-related diseases that has been cropping up over a period of time. So we allow you to eat substance on the market that would not harm you as much as others.
Dr. Sebi often emphasized the practice of fasting as a crucial component of his approach to health and healing. His philosophy on fasting aligns with the broader belief in the body's ability to heal itself when given the right conditions. This ideology aligns with numerous other nutritional doctrines, as fasting has been practiced for millennia across cultures for spiritual, religious, and health purposes.
Fasting is good, very good. Fasting is good. Well, me, I like to fast, because when I fast, I'm better for her. Because I'm healthier. Like, my mother died the day I was coming here. I couldn't turn back because she wouldn't have liked that. So I said, I'm going to stop eating. But I ate last night with Linda. I'm not going to eat today. I'm not going to eat tomorrow. And when I get back, I told my wife, we're going to stop eating for about 2 months because it's good. 12 days is good. A good fast, stop eating for 12 days every year. And you drink plenty of water and juice.
Among Dr. Sebi's claims about the benefits of fasting are the healing of various ailments and disease, weight loss, and enhanced mental clarity. Dr. Sebi claimed that fasting served as the catalyst for healing many of the ailments he had experienced leading up to his early adulthood. At just 32 years of age, Dr. Sebi suffered from obesity, impotence, depression, and overall poor health.
And when I was impotent, I asked my healer, I said, hey, hold it, fella. You know, I'm impotent. I'm under 30. I want to know how come I have to start eating when I got to eat my protein. Got to get my eggs. He said, look, when you stop eating, all that fat that clogged your penis and your prostate gland, all that fat is going to get the opportunity to drain out. When will I see that? I don't know when, but it will be happening before 90 days. The first week, the second week, my asthma began to subside. On the 27th day, my diabetes left. On the 57th day, I woke up to this. Now, I could not process this because in the barbershop in Honduras, when I was 9 or 10 and 15, the man used to say, you gotta eat a lot of eggs, you gotta drink a lot of wine, eat meat. And that was the very thing that made me impotent. So yes, fasting gonna heal every part of you that you need to be healed.
The history of fasting is extensive and multifaceted, going back thousands of years. It has been embraced by diverse cultures and belief systems for reasons encompassing religious observance, spiritual growth, and most importantly, health-related benefits.
Societies all over the world have incorporated fasting for all types of reasons. Before we get into voluntary fasting, though, let's take a look at our distant ancestors. Before the innovation of agriculture, humans relied on hunting and foraging. Tens of thousands of years ago, there was no constant access to food, so eating 3 meals a day was pretty much impossible. One could argue that this pattern of fast and feast was worked into our evolution, possibly explaining why it's so beneficial.
But fasting hype isn't new at all. More than 100 years ago in 1911, Upton Sinclair published a popular book called The Fasting Cure, where he reports on multiple miraculous health improvements from various people's multiple day fasts, with some people fasting longer than a month.
She told me she was suffering with alcoholism and that she was smoking excessively, cigarettes, drinking and smoking. She asked me, what do I need to do to stay on the side of peace? I said, fast, do what Jesus did. She said, what did Jesus do? He fasted for 40 days and 40 nights.
Scientific research has shown that fasting positively impacts metabolic health by improving biomarkers associated with chronic diseases. This includes improving insulin sensitivity, reducing blood sugar levels, and reducing inflammation. Fasting is also said to trigger an important cellular maintenance function called autophagy. Autophagy is a natural cellular process in which the body degrades and recycles damaged or unnecessary cellular components. This highly regulated mechanism is essential for maintaining cellular homeostasis and ensuring proper cellular function.
The word autophagy comes from a Greek word meaning self-eating. Auto means self, and phagy means to consume. In modern medicine, it is the name for a process in which our body cleans out damaged cells, recycles proteins and other cellular components in order to regenerate newer, healthier cells.
So what you're doing in essence when you're fasting is actually something extremely powerful, because what you're doing is you're activating the body by switching fuel sources. So instead of relying on your food, you're relying on your body fat, but then you're pumping energy into the system. You're getting more energy. So people say, oh, you can't concentrate. That's actually the opposite. People actually concentrate better. They actually think better. They actually move better. So we work with a number of elite athletes, and I always say to them, well, think about it for a second. If you just ate a huge meal, do you think you're really sharp? Well, think about Thanksgiving. When you eat a huge meal, do you feel really sharp, or do you want to just sit on the couch afterwards? If you are an animal, do you really want to be like that lion who just ate, or do you want to be like the hungry wolf? The hungry wolf is not sluggish lying on the couch, right? The hungry wolf is activated, and the reason is physiology. The reason is that sympathetic nervous tone is up, noradrenaline is pumped way up. And then growth hormone. Well, what you're doing is you're tearing down old proteins in your body and building up new ones. So you're actually renovating your body. You're rejuvenating the body. It's actually a form of anti-aging, but it's available to all of us for free.
When I wake up in the morning, the best breakfast that I've ever had in 35 years is 3 glasses of water. And I leave running for work. And I have a lot of work. I work 20 hours a day sometimes. 3 glasses of spring water, and you go to work. I'm not going to name the country because I may jeopardize the country. Because the one thing I learned, that when you begin to talk favorable about a country or individual, they're going to soon get him. That is a fact. So I cannot talk about the country that said to Dr. Sebi, Dr. Sebi, whenever you want to return to Africa and begin this new empire, you have 5,000 acres of land and 6 hot springs. I don't need anything else. Hot springs? 5 hot springs with 5,000 acres of land? We could grow food. We could make the best dress. I said, sir, I am not going to come to your country unless I'm able to grow marijuana. He said, marijuana? He said, wait just a minute. He said, I can't do that. I said, well, the compounds I've been giving your nephew that was autistic, that now is talking, was marijuana. And as for you is concerned, when I came here, you weren't walking. You were dying. Now you're running up the steps in the presidency. Yes, marijuana. That's a God's product.
Before we get out of here, I had a couple more questions for you, Dr. Sebi. Marijuana. Can you smoke too much? Is there such a thing?
Well, I'm 80 years of age.
Yeah.
I've been smoking marijuana ever since I was 14. So I don't believe that I'm a good candidate to answer that question.
I think you're a great candidate, especially if you're helping to heal people of dis-ease. And, different healers might say that, smoking too much can cause adverse, something negative. In the body.
I've only been smoking it for 66 years, so I think it needs some more time for me to.
Okay, so there's that.
Dr. Sebi was a strong proponent for the therapeutic use of cannabis as part of an overall healthy lifestyle. He believed in its potential to treat a number of diseases and ailments, while also alleviating anxiety-related symptoms and promoting better sleep hygiene.
But there's a book written in Ecuador.
Yeah.
Hierbas medicinales del Ecuador. Medicinal herbs of Ecuador. And one of them is marijuana. And they had 4 pages of it. And I began to read, because I speak Spanish. I understand Spanish. In fact, I learn a lot from them.
Yeah.
So, in this book, they show that marijuana cures 20 plus diseases, which I know is true. Nervous problems, like, for instance, delirium tremens, Parkinson's disease, epilepsy. The man that was killed by us here in Los Angeles, that was blind, Mr. Fredericks, his daughter was suffering with epilepsy, 2 grand mal a day. I gave her 1 tablespoon of a tincture of marijuana. She didn't have another one.
Dr. Sebi also made clear distinctions between cannabis and tobacco consumption, the latter of which he considered detrimental to one's health.
Well, we know that people have these prejudices against God. We do. We don't use what God made. We use what man made in the laboratory. Marijuana is not like tobacco. Tobacco was made in the laboratory. Everybody smokes cigarettes freely, but marijuana is prohibited because it's God. So I have to be careful in telling folks what I give them.
Consistent with his overall approach to selecting natural foods, Dr. Sebi emphasized his preference for non-hybridized strains of cannabis. The original strains of marijuana are often referred to as landrace strains. These strains developed naturally in specific geographic regions over centuries without hybridization, making them genetically pure and highly adapted to their environments. These strains serve as the foundation for many modern hybrid variations. Some notable landrace strains include Afghani, Hindu Kush, and Jamaican lamb's bread.
Yeah, but it has to be natural marijuana.
So there is a lot of unnatural marijuana
No,
out there?
we
Is that
cannot
what you're
use the
saying?
hybrid. You know, they talk about Kush and all that stuff.
Yeah.
That's hybrid.
I got
we
you.
talk about the real marijuana with seeds. That's medicinal.
Gotcha.
Cannabis has been used for many purposes beyond medicine throughout history. Its versatility has made it an important resource in various aspects of daily life, industry, and culture. Cannabis, and more specifically hemp, a variety of cannabis sativa, is one of the oldest cultivated crops, and its fibers have been used for clothing, paper, and as building material for construction. It can also be used to create biodegradable plastics, composite materials, and insulation products. Through a process called phytoremediation, cannabis has been researched for its ability to remove heavy metals and other toxins from soil. Cannabis played a key role in the early history of the United States, particularly during the colonial period and in the years following the nation's founding. Early American leaders such as George Washington and Thomas Jefferson considered hemp an essential crop and were even involved in its production at the time. It continued to sustain its prominence until the rise of the petroleum industry in the late 19th and early 20th century. Around this time, synthetic, petroleum-based products began to replace materials derived from natural sources. An aggressive media campaign led by the Federal Bureau of Narcotics and its commissioner Henry Anslinger eventually led to the passing of the Marijuana Tax Act of 1937. This resulted in the heavy regulation of the use and production of cannabis and cannabis-based products in the United States. Anslinger and others used racial and social fears to build support for the criminalization of cannabis, even though hemp was primarily used for industrial and medicinal purposes at the time.
That's not cigarette. You see what happened? My brother used to smoke cigarettes, but my brother didn't know that the tobacco that he was smoking was artificial. God didn't make that. But marijuana, God did make that. So it must have been a good reason why I was told in school that everything God made is good. Well, I know that. I live that. And I always will smoke it for as long as I live. Why? Because I have that right. I have that right. It's not everybody that uses it, from autism to arthritis, is cured, because everything that God made is good.
I say, have you ever considered hemp? He said, it's funny you asked me that, because that's exactly what I want to cultivate. Hemp milk, hemp shoes, hemp clothes, hemp prevent land erosion. We could do anything, we could do everything to make our body healthy again. Together we could do it.
Dr. Sebi was arrested on May 28, 2016, at Juan Manuel Galvez International Airport in Roatan, Honduras. Authorities arrested him after he was found carrying $37,000 in cash. Honduran law requires travelers entering or leaving the country to declare cash holdings, which at the time was any amount in excess of $10,000 US. Dr. Sebi was subsequently charged with suspected money laundering and was held the Penal de Barrio Inglés, a prison located in La Ceiba, Honduras. This facility is known for its challenging conditions, including overcrowding, limited access to medical care, and inadequate dietary provisions.
Why do you think they killed him? Why do they kill all holistic doctors?
Right.
Messing up the medical industry. You short-stopping their grind. Why do niggas get killed for hustling in front of a nigga spot? You short-stopping the grind. And these niggas, they check is billions.
Family members who had corresponded with Dr. Sebi during his captivity claimed that he refused to eat the prison food because it did not align with his strict dietary principles. After being imprisoned for approximately 70 days, Dr. Sebi died on August 6, 2016, at the age of 82, allegedly due to complications from pneumonia.
And I assure you that if the things that we have expounded on are put into practice, yes, rewards will be seen immediately. And now, I thank you so very much. I love you. And we will always afford you our natural vegetation self-food. And I thank you so very much. Your brother, servant, Dr. Sebi.